What's up, Legion? Welcome back to I Still Call It a Lariat. Your boy Zapf is here, and we are back with our series of interviews leading into WrestleMania. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Brutal Bob Evans. He's worked for Ring of Honor. He's actually worked for pretty much every major company in the last several decades. He is a trainer. He is a mentor. He's someone who I've never actually personally spoken with before. And I'm very excited because a lot of our viewpoints usually align. So I can't wait to hear this interview and get into this. Folks, I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing it. What's up, Legion? Welcome to I Still Call It a Lariat, a pro wrestling podcast. This is another in a series of interviews we have going until WrestleMania weekend. On with us today is someone who I'm very excited to talk to, Brutal Bob Evans. He's a Ring of Honor guy. He's a trainer, a mentor, someone who I've never actually spoken with in person, but we've had conversations online. And I feel like we share a lot of very similar mindsets on the business. Bob, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on, man.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this. I know it with everybody's schedule and everybody doing their thing. It's not always easy to do, but yeah, I'm happy to be here today. Thanks so much for having me.
Man, like I said, I'm really happy to have you here. As I said, we've never spoken in person, but we almost constantly comment on each other's posts where it's like, hey, you should be doing this in wrestling. And if you're not doing this, you probably should be. And then it'll be like, you post it. And I'm like, I couldn't agree more. And then I'll tag you in something and be like, hey, don't you agree with this? And you're like, I couldn't agree more. And that's why I couldn't wait to have you on the show. Bob, before we get into anything else, is there anything you want to talk about, promotions or anything like that you've got going on? I'd love to be able to shoot out for the fans to realize that you got this going on.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we're going to touch on it, but really, I've been kind of, I'm still wrestling, still having fun with that. 33 years in the business, 52 and a half years old. So I'm kind of winding that part down, and that's okay. I'm not upset. I've had a wonderful career, met so many people, got to wrestle so many great people from local to living and now immortal legends. Gotten to do WWE, Ring of Honor, Impact, NWA. Pretty much all my dreams came true. So really no issues with that. But now, and obviously for the last 25 years, I started training people when I was 8 years in, and that was in 2000. And I'm still kind of doing my thing with that. But about 9 years ago, I started going national and doing national and international tours of training and mentoring and things like that. And now I've teamed up with my good friend Kevin Kelly. And Kevin and I have done quite a few seminars together anyway, but we're kind of trying to structure a little bit more and do more with a lot of mentoring, a lot of consulting work. We're trying to really dig in with wrestling promotions because, Steve, I just don't want to see independent promoters go broke. And I want to see them make money. There's plenty of money to be made. I know this is just about the hottest time in wrestling ever, but I really want people to make it even when wrestling isn't so hot. So it's really laying down the foundations, and it's been a great education for me the last year, kind of starting to really dig in and do the promoting workshops and things like that. Still doing the in-ring training, still doing mentoring with wrestlers, managers, podcasters, everybody. So, but that's really kind of how I transitioned into the coaching thing. I really like it. I love coaching independent wrestlers. I love coaching independent people, wrestling companies. It's really kind of my passion. So just got off the phone. That's actually why I was late with you today. I got off the phone with a couple that's going to start promoting some shows in the New York area, and they were looking for guidance, and they turned to me. It's a blessing to have so many people. I wish I could help everybody quickly and quietly and snap my fingers and make everybody draw, but it is hard work. But yeah, that's really kind of what I've been doing lately. Pretty much 90% of my stuff has been, and also the social media thing, just putting out a lot of content. Really, I watch a lot of YouTube guys that, they laugh at people that post once a day. these people are posting 10, 15 times a day. So I've really started doing quite a bit more posting, repurposing new stuff, old stuff, videos. We're doing a Friday live Facebook show, me and Kevin, every week now. So we're
Awesome.
just, we're just almost live because I screw it up every time I try to go live. So, um, so now I just record it and put it on right after. It's easier. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, Steve. That's how it's been the last, uh, 10 years down to distilled to 1 year recently. And it's been a hell of a ride, and I'm grateful for every minute of it. So how about you? What have you been up to, my friend?
I mean, you're looking at it. I do this show. The joke is I work full time at a shoot
Yep.
job, and then I do full time podcast, and
Right.
then in my alter ego in my real life, I help my wife full time with a venue that she's opening up to do weddings down here in Florida. So
Oh, nice.
essentially, sleep is what suffers,
Yes.
but I feel like I'll be able to do that enough probably when I retire or I'm dead, whichever one comes
Yeah.
first at this point. But I like being busy. I still try to get workouts in. I am I have retired from the ring. I have made some promises and I am trying to stick to those promises.
Mm-hmm.
I about just over 2 years ago I had back surgery actually. And it was very
Mm.
minor, but it was one of those things where my wife looked at me and was like, I think this is time to call it.
Wrap it
And
up.
of course, like every one of us, the excuse was, "Well, I didn't hurt myself wrestling, though."
Uh-huh.
And her response was, "You know, that's not the right answer." And I went, "I know."
Mm-hmm.
But I dig doing the show. Honestly, I love wrestling. Is my first love, always and first and foremost. I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday, and I said my oldest memory is my dad waking me up because Hulk Hogan was going to be on primetime wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And for the kids out there that don't know, primetime is the precursor to Monday Night Raw, when they would have like studio stuff going on, and it was so cool. And I remember like I'm 4 or 5 years old and I'm allowed to like stay up till after 9 o'clock to watch wrestling. This is awesome.
Yep.
Uh, but again, I love this. I love interviewing guys like you, and part of a lot of the people that I bring on are guys like you, Bob, where I want this to be a platform where guys who are struggling in the business, guys who are starting out in the business, can listen to some of these interviews. I've had Kakoa on. I just had Rudy Gonzalez on. Actually, the last interview I did, which is posting as we're recording this, is Barrett Brown, who I just found out you had an Iron Man match with not that long ago.
Oh yeah, I love Barrett. I gave Barrett $1 million idea, and he hasn't run with it yet. Barrett, I'm talking to you. Run with that idea. So
He might not hear it just yet, just because he's in Australia currently.
that's
So
fine. That's fine. He just needs to be reminded. So
So I'm going to get into some of the interview stuff. Bob, just so that everyone knows, what inspired you to get into wrestling?
I was a fan growing. Well, actually, I wasn't a fan growing up. I got into it a little bit later. See, I wasn't 4 or 5 years old like you, Steve. I got into it maybe in middle school because.
Okay.
But you got to remember, my middle school was the war to settle the score, 1984, 1985. One of the hottest, again, one of the times that Vince really leaned into doing the mainstream thing and going national. So wrestling was red hot. It was as hot as kind of like picture, for a little bit more perspective for people, picture either today or picture the Attitude Era when it was cool as hell. Except I think in the 80s, it was cooler with a younger crowd. I don't mean babies, but I mean like my age, like 11, 12, 13, that kind of. And then everybody else was kind of started getting into it as well. And it became, up here in the Northeast. I'm from Massachusetts and I'm still here. I grew up a quarter of a mile away from where I live now. Um, so it's but nobody in my family was a wrestling fan. I don't have any fond memories of like sitting there watching it with my grandfather or my dad or my mom or anything like that, or my brother. None of my family members were into wrestling, still aren't. It was me and my thing, and I was the wrestling kid in school. I was the guy who, would wear wrestling shirts. And back in the day, now you wear a wrestling shirt, who cares? But back then, you wore a wrestling shirt, you were kind of a nerd or a jerk or a worse name that they can't call you now. But so and actually everybody was kind of a secret wrestling fan. But back in the day, it wasn't as cool to mention it.
Yeah.
Now who cares? But back then, it was a little bit more, whatever, sectioned off or quiet or whatever. But loved Hulk Hogan and Roddy Piper, the MTV stuff, the Cyndi Lauper stuff, Mr. T, WrestleMania 1, all that stuff brought me into wrestling, all that stuff. I remember my mom bought me, and it was $40 at the time in 1985, which is probably like $120 now. So
I
for my
think it's about
birthday,
that.
they
Yeah.
bought me, yeah, and it was $39.99. I remember that. But WrestleMania 1 videotape came out 6 months after. Here's how it used to be, gang. It was released right around Labor Day, and that's always when my birthday is. My 13th birthday, my parents bought me the WrestleMania 1 VHS tape, and I all of a sudden was super sick that day and just had to, go home and watch my wrestling matches. So, but that's how it used to be, and I used to watch it every Saturday afternoon. Used to watch primetime wrestling when I could. I couldn't, my bedtime was 10, so I'd usually watch the first hour. And then, just kind of built from there. Started watching Crockett and TBS and all that stuff when they came in right around Starrcade 85.
Okay.
And I just watched the first episode. It actually dropped in the vault, the WCW vault WWE puts on YouTube. It's the first episode I ever watched as a fan, beginning to end, was the Starrcade 85 wrap up. And I still remember J.J. Dillon tripping Terry Taylor and winning Buddy Landell the national title, that son of a gun. But it's, and then just kind of gone on from there, went through high school, went through college, still being the wrestling guy. Halfway through college, me and a buddy, Mark Amaral, decided to run a backyard wrestling thing called Power League Wrestling and put it on public access. That's how obsessed we were about it. And I put a phone number at the end of every episode and said, if you want to wrestle with us, because it was kind of like a club, whatever. If you want to wrestle with us, call this number. And one day I got a call from Brian Brieger, who wrestled the Scorpion in New Bedford, Mass. And he said, hey, we run a little wrestling show here. Do you want to check it out? Is it something that, you might want to do? It looks like you guys, and he was just recruiting there was really nobody to recruit from because there was no wrestling. There was no like wrestling on TV. So he saw it as an opportunity. And it was me and another guy. The other guy lasted 2 classes, blew out his knee and left, never came back. And then I've been there ever since. And that was February 12th, 1992. And Brian Brieger also went on to train Reno Scum when he moved to Reno, Vegas.
Okay.
So we have some cousins in the business, and just kind of moved on from there. A couple years later, met the mentor that really kind of changed things for me, Bruiser Costa, Jeff Costa. You might have actually seen him as Lobster Man, the fat guy with the lobster claws.
I
He got
do
into a
recall.
fight with Hammerstone last year.
Yep.
But Jeff is actually he's crazy. I love him. We haven't always agreed on stuff, but he is a genius at wrestling. A crazy genius. Ran for
Those are the best
president.
ones sometimes.
Oh yeah, I ran for president in 19 whatever it was, when 1998, 1990. Got on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart because it was such a crazy story, and taught me a lot about not only working, because he was one of the original Kowalski students, but taught me about working like a territory style, working a live event style, babyface heel, knowing when to work the crowd, when to slow down, when to speed up, that kind of stuff. And then kind of went from there. I started getting booked on Tony Rumble shows, got seen by some WWF people, started getting booked as an extra, did about 25 extra shots during the Attitude Era, which was super cool. And then
Oh, hold on one.
but started doing in 2000, I opened up my own school and started training people, and kind of started running shows. I ran over 100 shows and under Easter Pro Wrestling. Trained a bunch of people, turned a bunch of people professional, and then kind of started ratcheting down. And then found an opportunity in 2009 where Ring of Honor was looking. Kevin Kelly's a good friend, really good friend of mine, one of my best friends, if not if not the best friend. His son is my godson, and he said, hey, this could be a really good opportunity for you. This could be a really good chance for you to, show what you can do. They're looking for new people. They're looking for new perspectives. And Jim Cornette is part of the group that runs the company. And Jim and I were already friends. Jim was already a fan of mine. And so did the tryout camp, paid for the tryout camp, got the job, started managing Mike Bennett, who was one of my guys, who also started getting the deal. And I hung in there after everybody saying why is this guy here? He's probably going to get fired. He's probably going to let go. I lasted 8.5 years in that company. I consider that just a wonderful success story. Learned a ton about TV production, started helping people with promos, started helping people with producing, trained. I didn't train at the school, but I trained at a lot of the training camps, and going to a lot of the tryout camps with people all over the country. They're coming in, seeing me in Pennsylvania for 2 days, built me up a national reputation where people started asking me to come to the schools and doing seminars. And that's how the whole Hangs with Bob thing started happening. So, and throughout all that, I started posting stuff on Facebook, just kind of stuff that I had learned, mistakes that I had made that I learned from. There were times when I got a little preachy. I learned how not to be preachy and just kind of say, hey, you get into it and it's, uh, you figure out what your message is and then you can deliver it a little more consistently. And this is kind of the guy I've always wanted to become in wrestling, the kind of the cool older guy that mentors people and is still the cool guy in the room that people still listen to, talk to, doesn't know everything, but knows a lot. And, just helps people. Like I had certain people that helped me probably more than I realized, but they didn't make a big deal out of it. And there were other people that didn't help me at all that really could have. And I just wanted to be the people that helped instead of the people that didn't help. So that's in a nutshell. That's 33 years in a nutshell.
That's a lot in a nutshell, though. That's
I
a big
know.
nut. So funny thing is how you mentioned wrestling cousins. Kind of our main wrestling cousin, I guess, would be your tag team partner, former tag team partner. I'm not sure where we're living in the world at this point, but that would be Timmy Hughes.
Oh yeah, no, we're
So,
still Tim and I
so
are tag champions at Top Rope Promotions up here in Fall River, Mass. But that's pretty much the only one he does. Tim's really concentrating more on fitness and his journey through figuring out life and growing up, and
yeah,
he had some real kicks in the teeth a few years ago, and it's been a way back, so nothing bad, no drugs or alcohol or anything, but just a relationship issue that ended, and he had to bounce back from that. It was unexpected, and figuring out where wrestling fits. He comes up here, he drives 250 miles on a Friday through traffic to wrestle up here because he likes all the people that he works with. And it's very enjoyable for him, but he can go and he'll just go to baseball games. He's fine. He's a Mets fan.
yeah.
He'll just go to Citi Field, do his thing. And went to the Ranger Stadium, and I think he went to the Astro Stadium a couple weeks ago, and he really enjoyed that. And that was kind of his thing. But yeah, we still team. We're still friends, talk all the time. Um, that's some of my favorite times in wrestling, probably if not the favorite time in wrestling, was kind of mentoring Tim on the way up and teaching a young guy who watched Ring of Honor growing up to be a 1980s, 1990s territory wrestler when neither one of us had been a territory wrestler before. I didn't start traveling until I was like 37 or 38, really out of the area. And really, I didn't really start traveling, flying to a lot of places and way out of the other side of the country and stuff till I was 40. So that's, I'll drink too. There we go. Toast
Toast, toast to that.
with our big
We
gimmick cups. But yeah, that's it, man. And wrestling has given me so much. I mean, there's aches and pains, no serious health issues, knock on wood, but aches and pains, and you feel it every day. And I'm still in the gym, but I feel the gym every day more than ever.
I
But
feel
it's
that one.
yeah, hell yeah. But
That one I'm with you on.
but we got to do it. Got to stay strong.
You
Got to stay
have to.
strong. I mean,
So
there's more. There's more. So just this has absolutely nothing to do with wrestling, but it does. but there's more evidence every day that all the stuff about us losing muscle mass when we get older is very, very overstated. As long as we stay in the gym, we keep walking. If you can't go to the gym, just walk as many steps as you can. Do do be active. Take the stairs instead of the elevator when you can, when it's safe. Um, just do the little things. Eat a little bit less, move a little more. You're not going to lose 100 pounds. This is not a diet plan. It's just a life plan, you know? So, but there's more and more evidence to the fact that if we do that, that'll get rid of not all the health issues, but some. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's I'm a big believer that a body in motion stays in motion.
Yep.
So it's cliched, but it's true. You mentioned the time that you became a wrestling fan. It's funny because maybe it's just our age difference, but that's the same time I became a wrestling fan.
Right.
And I'm also from the Northeast. I'm from New Jersey originally, and my joke of it is because as I matured in wrestling,
Right.
I gravitated a little bit more towards Crockett, NWA, WCW, stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that eventually. But being a poor kid from New Jersey, people from down here, down in Florida in the South area, they don't realize like Turner Broadcasting wasn't just a channel for everybody. So like
Right.
I didn't see WCW until it was WCW. I didn't
Right.
see like my first recollection of watching was Flair had already gone to WWF
Oh,
in
yeah.
during that Royal Rumble time. Like I was already like I was like, okay, well I've seen him. And then by the time I started watching WCW, like Sting and Luger were feuding over that round version of the title in like
Yes.
'92. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so we're actually kind of coinciding in fandom here.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
and
really
I
tough
always
to, it's really tough to, sorry to interrupt, but it's really tough to, it's really tough to stack anything up against Crockett TV and pay-per-views and Great American Bash and all that stuff, 1986 and 1987, and maybe halfway through 88. But 86 and 87, if you just start from January 86 and go to December 87, it's pretty tough to beat. It is it is an awesome 2 years in wrestling.
I
So,
completely agree.
yeah.
I actually say for some of the newer or the promotions that are bigger right now, I wish that that's more what they mirrored right now
Mm-hmm.
than kind of the path that some of them are taking. I think that gave you a lot of athleticism along with storytelling. Like
Yep.
it was the perfect storm of awesome type of thing. Like I know Mid South is still a little dated for some people, but I felt like that 85 to 89
Yep.
NWA time was like the switch from the violence of Mid South and the fights along with like the athleticism, and you got some of the lighter guys, the Ricky and Roberts, the Rock and Roll Expresses, the Midnight Expresses, all that stuff where you got the work what the kids now call the work rate wrestling, but it was fast paced, it was good, it was so good to watch. And then you had Dusty and Flair telling stories while
Yep.
putting on hour-long matches. So
Right.
I'm right there with you, man. I think that's a great time for people. And I always say maybe it's because we got to watch it live and live it a little bit. So
Right.
maybe we see it a little bit better than other people, or
Well,
they just don't want to go watch it.
okay, so think about, and this is what I tell people. I try to understand because I'm trying to get them to understand my perspective, right? So I try to understand theirs at the same time. When I was at I did a seminar in Pennsylvania. Shout out to Mon Valley Wrestling and the gang over there, and J. Rue and good crew, good nice people. Um, so I'm saying, I'm trying to tell them about this 80s and 90s stuff, and they're looking at me like I have nine heads. And I said, well, I kind of agree with you guys, because if somebody walked up to me in 1992 and said, check out this great stuff from the late 50s, I'd be like, you're nuts. I'm not going to sit there and watch some black and white film of something in the 50s. Yeah, but you can borrow a lot from it. Yeah, but I'm not going to, it's lame. I'm not going to watch it. Like, I understand that. But think about, I also turned it around and said, Quentin Tarantino wouldn't have a career if he didn't borrow from old movies. Not because he
Exactly.
wasn't good enough, but he needed that inspiration because he was basically the biggest like movie mark you've ever met in your life. So he wanted to, but and people, a lot of people even accuse him of like ripping stuff off and all that. It's that's whatever. But the idea is that he was so inspired that it really got him thinking about doing, putting a lot of that stuff in his movies, and he kind of it helped people understand how important the older movies were. I just watched Citizen Kane last year, one of the most influential movies of all time, if not the most influential movie, and it still holds up. It's not perfect. Um, it's almost 100 years old. But
Yeah.
if you're anybody who's into like if you're just into cinema, watch the movie and then watch like a documentary about how much stuff was he and Orson Welles influenced the industry. That's really when I watch it and I go, okay, I'm an amateur at that stuff. But then if you watch something with somebody explaining the context and how much it means, which is what I try to do when I'm showing old matches. I just started doing a little bit on Facebook again. I started doing a little bit of a commentary with the Rock and Roll Express and the Mid Express, and it's basically it's Houston wrestling. It's an important match for Mid South, but there's so much stuff that can be taken from there, and they never stop moving. It's all action, but it's not complicated. It's complicated because you wouldn't be able to pull it off because you're not good enough yet. But if you watch it and you go, holy mackerel, like, and Cornette would say it all the time, like I'm a Jim Cornette guy. I also get along with Vince Russo though. So, but it's yeah, it's true. But the Cornette would be like, now try to call all this stuff. You can't call all this stuff because a lot of it is just wrestling each other 50 times, 100 times, knowing where to be, knowing what to do, knowing what the crowd wants, and kind of, going along with that. And that's reps. And again, I'm a big fan of reps. I'm a big fan of traveling, finding out what crowds like, what they don't like, learning from other people, getting out there. If you stay in your own neighborhood, that's great, but win the hell out of your neighborhood. Win it. Like, just dominate it. But if you're not going to do that, then, and you want to go be a national wrestler or whatnot, then go do that too. Because I think it's fantastic that WWE, kind of going off on a tangent here, but I think it's fantastic that WWE is reaching out into other places, the
I,
NIL stuff. No,
I
no,
absolutely love that stuff.
no issues at all. If there's a ball player or an archer or a bowler or someone who a a martial arts person that we don't know from MMA, and they have 2 million people following them on social media, then maybe we can bring that audience to us, and it's a different audience. And plus, I think I think WWE is now the fifth or sixth sport now. I don't think it's wrestling, but I think it's WWE.
I think it's WWE.
Cena's turn was the number one story on SportsCenter. Like, wrestling is
Exactly.
covered on SportsCenter now. It's and whether it's fake or not is a non-issue. It's a complete non-issue. Nobody cares. Nobody nobody discusses it. It's absolutely not anything that even matters. So it's not even winked at anymore. They just don't talk about it. Really, it's just
Exactly.
not. So I think there's a lot of opportunities to get mainstream people in here. But on the other side of the coin, we have to teach people how to be territory wrestlers, how to carry people, because hey, I have a pretty good following on Facebook and social media, but I don't have anywhere near the following that some of these people have. But I could certainly wrestle these people around little towns all over the country and teach them. I could
Exactly.
I could have matches and hey, let's have a 10-minute match. Let's slow you down. Let's teach you the nuances of the business, kind of like the old days when veterans who gave a shit did that. But that's what the other side would be. So we have all these people that are new at wrestling, but again, my saying is they're going to have to wrestle somebody. They can't wrestle each other because it's going to look too dancey. It's going to look too choreographed. And I know, because people lose when people see the choreography and just the moves, and the action tells the story instead of the people telling the story, then we lose quite a bit of it because we didn't fall in love with the action. We fell in love with the people. And that is some of the biggest moments in wrestling that you and I watched had nothing to do with a suplex, a slam. I mean, Hogan slamming Andre, yes, but the idea was that Andre was Andre and Hogan was Hogan. It wasn't about the slam.
No,
He
it
had
it was
slammed
it
him.
was who was doing it.
He had slammed
I,
them on house shows in Providence and the Bank Street Armory probably, and nobody cared.
I was
They
gonna say
cared, but you
I
know
think he slammed him at Shea Stadium
he
when they
did. He
wrestled
slammed
when
them 50 times once a match when Andre felt like it. You know.
yeah. And I'm a big believer. I go with the term. I heard this from JBL one time. It's a lot of stuff in wrestling nowadays is motion without emotion,
Yep.
and I
Yep.
think that's always the term I end up going back to. And it's the simplest thing. Like kind of like you said, it's not a matter of what you do; it's who's doing it. Sometimes, so like you can't show a wrestling school Hogan versus Rock from WrestleMania and expect that you're going to get that reaction. They got that reaction because it was Hogan versus Rock. You
Well, and
know, like
also it was 20 years of hard work and 10 years of hard work joining up and doing a joint venture in front of 60,000 people. And Hogan was always red hot in Toronto. That was one of his hottest towns. And
so
Rock was
weird.
Rock at the time. Yeah. Well, he always was. Like he was always
Yeah,
well, Toronto's red hot for wrestling anyway. Ontario's
that's
a
true.
great, they still do great business up there. The Indies do great business, but they've always been a WWF territory because the Tunnies were up there and they always had a direct line
That's right.
to Vince most of the time anyway. That's where Bruno went when he got blackballed. That's and they always promoted towns. For a while they didn't, but most of the time they did. So it was always kind of like an extension of WWF, WWE. But yeah, I completely agree with that. It's most of the moments we grew up on Hogan looking at Andre, Hogan and Rock, Austin and The Rock, Austin and Bret Hart, Flair and Steamboat, Flair and Dusty, any of those, a lot of it was, and you remember these days, a lot of it was because we didn't see a lot of one-on-one action where they wrestled. Sometimes we did, you know, all of a sudden Flair will be wrestling, Barry Windham for an hour on TV, but they did that once a year to kind
Yeah,
of push the house shows. It was more about promos and FaceTime, and I don't mean FaceTime like the phone call. I mean FaceTime like time your face is showing on TV, and promos, 2.5 minute promos, and a squash match with a guy who was barely trained, um, and you're trying not to get killed out there, and in a studio with 100 people, and WWF, it was long TV tapings, 3-4 hours, where it was a bunch of guys from Kowalski's wrestling school and some people up here and
yep.
getting beat up, and I was one of those guys too. Like, go get beat up by Atom Bomb on TV in 5 different languages on YouTube. But that's what you did, and that's what TV was back then. Then when Nitro came along and it kind of Eric Bischoff kind of upped the ante and said we're going to do main event title matches on TV. Well, that kind of changed the whole, and Vince had to follow suit, and that's kind of the culture we have now of the big event culture on TV all the time. Except now we're trying to do it. The Netflix show is kind of interesting, and SmackDown is where the promos are over almost as much as the matches. So they're trying
I would
to
almost say more so at this
right. So
point.
they're trying to do less wrestling, which I think is actually very good on TV, and then push that into because I still think they're going to do something different. I don't know anything. I've been pretty much wrong with all the predictions lately, but I think they're gonna do something different with the PLEs. I think they're gonna try to either sell them as a package. I think they're gonna do something with them where they're gonna be monetized a little bit more. They talked about Nick Khan was very open about it. So he's like, that stuff's going to be on the market after Peacock. So who knows what that's going to be? Is that going to be an extra charge? Is that going to be a new streaming service? Is that going to be, an add-on to Peacock? Is that, who knows? Because if Peacock pays $2 billion for it, they're going to probably add another couple bucks to the subscription. So
Yeah,
whatever that is. But I know they're trying to kind of marry the Nitro Attitude Era system with the don't wrestle as much on TV and push the stuff to, even they're doing less live events, house shows and stuff than ever, which is fine. But every event is going to mean something. Every event is going to be, even the house shows mean something. The house shows are drawing 10,000 people. I mean,
which is insane. That's
right.
like to think that Madison Square Garden is a house show now. Like that's kind of what it's
Yeah.
almost become, is like MSG is a house show, but it's still Madison Square Garden. Now Bob, you've been a wrestler, obviously. You are still a
Hmm.
wrestler, a
Yep.
trainer, an agent. You've done work behind the scenes, you've done work in the ring.
Yep.
Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer working behind the scenes? Do you prefer working in the ring? Was it a situation where you didn't think you'd like working behind the scenes as much as you do?
I don't like the paper pusher stuff. I can book a show. I like doing that. I like the creative side of it. I can put a TV format together, but I'm good at formatting TV. I mean, I can put segments together, but I'm not good at writing it all down. So,
Okay.
and I don't like the producer role of, and I did this in Ring of Honor, but I was the bottom guy, and they want, if I'd wrestle in the pre-show, and then they'd be like, "Hey, do you want to help out?" Of course, I'm not gonna say no, but I'd go and ask people like, "Hey, what's the break spot? We're doing a 2 segment match. What are we gonna break on? 7 minutes in front, 7 minutes in the back, so it's pretty even. Uh, are you gonna do a dive? Where are you gonna do the dive? That kind of stuff. You'd have to ask questions about camera angles, things like that. At WWE, they're much more technical. Um, I don't enjoy that at all. I don't like doing that. I don't think that's the right use of what I would want to do my talents. I love helping people with their matches. I love helping people before, but I really like helping people after, dissecting it. What could we have done better? What can we do better for next time? And I really like that. Critiquing people. Not I don't like critiquing people, but I like helping people by critiquing them.
Coaching.
And
It's
yeah,
coaching.
right, exactly. That I like a lot. But as far as like doing the minutia, that's not the fun part. That's probably why years ago I had feelers about doing the NXT stuff and going down there and all that. I think that ship has sailed. And trust me, I'm not saying that they offered me a job. That is not what I'm saying. But there were
I,
feelers sent out. I asked questions, they asked questions. It was kind of a pre-interview thing, but my wife didn't want to move to Orlando, and I didn't want to not have a family anymore, and I didn't want
that's
to not
fair.
be around. So that was more important at the time. But it wasn't like they offered me some big job and I nobly turned it down. It was nothing like that. Trust me, I'm trying to be honest here, trying to
We,
be
you
full
you were in the
transparent.
beginning phases of conversations, basically.
If if we could get you down here, what would that look like? That kind of stuff. I asked a few questions. They were going to bring it to management. I've talked to a few people down there about maybe doing a week. The problem with doing a week down there is, and I'm going to say it out loud for the first time on your podcast, an exclusive, but they already know I don't want to do it full time. So there's really no reason to have me go down there and audition for a week for a job I'm going to turn down. So um, you may like Florida. I like visiting Florida, but I don't want to live there. So I like the seasons. I even like winter. I don't hate the seasons. I'm sure when I get older, maybe that will change. Even older than I am now. And I don't know if I can work well within a system. Not that I'm some big rebel or anything, but I do have my own ideas. I'm extremely independent with my work. I went into business for myself, which sounds terrible. Not in wrestling. I didn't go into business for myself for wrestling. I didn't beat anybody up. But I mean, I went into actual business for myself. I have my own courier
Exactly.
business now. Um, I have a regular route that I do. I like it. It's overnight. It's very, 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 very. Um, it's my own thing. I don't have to worry about anybody. I just I'm on my own little island, and very few people bother me, which is great. And I love talking to people, but I just don't want to be bugged, and I don't want to have a boss hanging over my head. So
I
I've kind
mean,
of
I,
figured
I,
it out. You
I
know.
don't blame you. That sounds kind of
Yeah.
golden. Sometimes I like my long car rides where I just get to throw on, of all people, usually Cornette's podcast, and that's what I listen to get some ideas for my stuff. Even
Lazy booking.
lazy booking.
That's
I
right.
stole that. So I'm in the restaurant industry for most of my life, and I
Yeah.
stole that term because I was like, "You're over seasoning stuff, man. It's lazy cooking."
Yeah. Oh, very good. Autonomous. That's the word I was looking for. Autonomous. I want to be autonomous. Yes. So, and it's tough to do that. And by the way, NXT is friggin' awesome. I'm not knocking NXT at all. That'd be stupid and delusional. NXT is a great system. Uh, we all have our critiques of it, but it's doing great. It's awesome, and there's so many good
I,
people, so many
I
smart people
agree.
running it. I went down there. I was I wasn't an invited guest. I went down there and said, "Can I go and watch the matches?" And they said yes. Um, so I got free tickets to the free thing anyway. But I got to sit there, and they treated me good. And a couple people who I had, Jason Ayers, and a couple of other people who I hadn't seen
Yeah.
in a while, Sammy. I know most of the referee crew because they were wrestlers that used to take my seminar. Jason Ayers and I have talked forever on social media, so it was nice to finally meet him. Got a picture with him. Blake Chadwick. Blake and I talk all the time. Blake's doing a great job announcing there. So, I mean, there were plenty of people to wave to and say hi to. I saw Dijak. Dijak was up here, so it was great to see him. So it's fun seeing people make it, seeing people do well. I have zero envy, zero jealousy, because it's not a system I want to be in. It's a hard life. It's a fruitful life. Financially, it'd be a lot better. And trust me, this isn't something like, oh, me, I speak my own mind. I wouldn't kiss ass. That's not what this, I just wouldn't enjoy it. It wouldn't be enjoyable for me. I'd have trouble, doing that every week. I don't know, wrestling. I don't want wrestling to be that. If it's going to be a job, I want it to be the job I set up for myself. I don't know if I want to just go and be part of a system, because I don't think I'd be hurt
That makes
enough.
sense.
Yeah, I don't
That
think
makes
I'd be hurt
sense.
enough. So, and just because I think I'm so great, maybe everybody else doesn't think I'm great either. And again, I don't want people to think that I'm turning down a job. I was some big magnanimous guy that turned down this big job for all kinds of money. Wasn't offered it. Nobody is reaching out to me. This is all hypothetical, but I'm just saying how I think I would react underneath that system. And I wouldn't want them to invest in hiring me, vetting me, introducing me to everybody, and I'm gone in 3 weeks. Like, I wouldn't want to do that. And I know a few guys that have actually done that. Bobby Eaton did that. A couple of like really smart, awesome wrestling people did that. And when I talked to them later on, they're like, "Yeah, I just couldn't work within the system. It wasn't anything they did. It's a great system. I just couldn't do it. Just too independent." So, and
I
again,
would
I'm not
say
some hot.
it's
Yeah,
very, very. I know just from talking to people, it is very structured, and I'll
yeah,
talk
yeah.
to. And it's funny because the
It has to
structuring
be.
is
They
what.
have 200 people down there. It has to be.
That's yeah, exactly, and that's even one of the things. Some of the younger talent that I recently said it, I believe, about Kyle Fletcher from
Yeah.
AEW. I said, I want everyone to understand what I mean by this when I say I think he would do well going over there for his
Mm-hmm.
career. Is I think if he got that structuring,
Yes.
it would like just fine tune everything to where he would go from 25 and a ton of potential to 26 and the world is his oyster.
Well, that's a really good point that you bring up, because I talked to a lot of people at AEW as well. By the way, AEW kicked me out of their locker room, so I don't think I'll be there anytime soon. And
That's fair.
they fired my best friend, so it's there's no love lost there. But I really have no. It's more a problem with the company and the leadership. And I will go on record again saying I've never met Tony Khan. I'm sure he's a sweet guy. He's helped. He signed some of my friends to contracts. He brought a new company into the deal. My biggest critique would be leadership style. He had, there was no leadership. There was no, again, structure. Uh, Wrestlers, employees, anybody you talk to, they're like teenagers. They act like they don't want the structure, but they do. They want rules. They want, and they also have to be called. We don't have to fire everybody and beat them up and have wrestlers court every time they do something stupid in the ring. We don't have to make a
They
big.
do have to be called out on it.
They have to be called out, and there has to be leadership. And I'm not going to mention any names here because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But the secondary leadership, the middle management, I've talked to quite a few of those people, and they're frustrated because they don't feel they feel. I mean, there's plenty of people that are very bright that are coaching there, that are helping to run things, that are wrestling minds. It's not that they're a bunch of buffoons, but it's kind of the Lord of the Flies, where there's not a lot of leadership, where you're basically allowed. And our friend Jim Cornette brought it up. He was talking about one of the matches on AEW. I forget exactly which one, but he's like, just because you can do everything doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, you don't have
It's
to,
a
especially on weekly television. Like,
Well, this was the pay-per-view, but it was a 4.5, 5 hour show, and it's because everybody just wants to go 20 minutes and have an epic match. You don't have to steal the show every time. I was watching WrestleMania 3, and Butch Reed and Coco Beware is 3.5 minutes, and they got
yep,
every piece of business they needed to get done in that 3.5 minutes. And Jake the Snake and Honky Tonk Man, which was a big feud at the time, was like 8 minutes. Junkyard Dog and Harley Race was like 4.5 minutes.
I I
Um,
I had this conversation when we did our review of Dynasty. The shortest match on the main card is 11 minutes flat.
right. And the thing is, can you wrestle for 11 minutes? Can you? And one day they're going to figure this out. And again, Tony Khan can run forever. He could take everything off of TV, get canceled tomorrow, put it on YouTube, and finance it for 20 years. So
Exactly.
there's really no issues with that. So it's one of the few companies where there's no danger of it going out of business. My issue is he's going to get burned out. And at that point, is it going to be too late? And I'm not talking about we bring everything back to 1985. That's not what I want to do. I'm perfectly willing and perfectly happy that people do moves, but the moves better be important. I don't want to see Will Ospreay break his ass on doing something crazy with Kyle Fletcher when people really don't care, or the move is kind of cool. But I mean, Shane McMahon used to jump off the cage once a year or jump off something really high once a year. Okay. Shane McMahon wasn't a classic worker. He was just a crazy guy.
He was a
So,
crazy guy.
right. But these guys do that he'll do it once a year or once every 6 months. These guys are doing the crazy crash test stuff.
Sometimes once a week.
Right. I mean, and they're going to watch this and they're going to poo poo me. And it's okay. I understand. I used to poo poo the old guys when they used to tell me I was doing too much. And trust me, I wasn't doing as much as these guys, but it's going to catch up to you. Will Ospreay's already been injured a bunch of times. He's flying 6,000 miles a week, 12 sometimes. I mean,
Yeah, because he goes back and forth.
exactly. And then they're doing deals with people right now where they're bringing guys from Japan, bringing guys from Australia, bringing guys from England. They're doing that now. That's something because they're making a lot more money, so they can pay that. But that's a tough flight. I flew from Pittsburgh an hour and
Especially
a half.
after you're beat up.
Right. Last week I had a match. I flew from Pittsburgh an hour and a half, and I could barely move. Like I can't imagine how these guys are doing it. So there's a lot of stuff that they don't consider until they consider. And
Yeah.
you're going to say it now, and it's going to sound like go mow the lawn and wash the dishes
Yeah,
and
we're
brush your
just
teeth
old men
every day.
that we're old jaded men that don't know what the hell we're talking
Right,
about.
and we're jealous, and I want his job because the first thing they're going to do, Steve, if Will Ospreay disappears off the planet, is they're going to call old Bob Evans to take that
Yeah,
spot,
yeah.
right? So,
They're actually listening to this podcast right now. They're gonna call
oh, I
both of
mean,
us to steal
because
Will Ospreay and
we're trying to,
Ricochet's spot. That's
we're
what we're
trying to
doing.
pull their careers right out from under them. And by the way, Will's been nothing but lovely to me.
I think he's
Forever,
an incredible talent.
and
I
he's a
think
good
he's
and he's a good kid. He
I think
is.
he's one of those situations where we say it on the show where in the beginning I was like, well, he does a lot that I'm not always a fan of, but I'm a fan of him doing it. It's
If he
like
was, if
he's
he
one
had
of those guys. Shut up and watch the show and let me tell my story. And we shut up and let him tell a story. And I was like, okay, we're better for it.
but the thing is, he only knows so much.
Exactly.
Will Ospreay can draw a fair crowd. He wasn't a huge draw in Japan, but he was a draw in Japan as far as Americans go. But Triple H was a international, worldwide guy who drew money everywhere. So was Undertaker. So was Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels runs NXT,
Exactly.
right? And I mean, you have a bunch of people there. Terry Taylor is, one of the guys who trains at the high level. Terry Taylor wrestled everywhere. Take Red Rooster out of the equation. Watch a Terry Taylor match, and you'll laugh when you say that guy was self-trained, because he was. Terry Taylor is like my Bob Evans. He's the guy that kept me in the wrestling,
I
inspired
was going to
me.
say, I remember the Terry Taylor Arn Anderson feud for the TV title. It's
Yep.
one of my favorite times in wrestling.
And the finish that they had where he reverses the high cross and puts his feet on the ropes. Tim and I have done that finish 100 times. So, but But Terry Taylor was my favorite wrestler growing up. So was Tito Santana, and I got to do a bunch of seminars with Terry Taylor, and I got to wrestle Tito Santana 3 times. So, and obviously Hulk Hogan, all those guys too. Um, but the you have these great wrestling minds here. When you go and you try to talk big to Triple H, he's probably going to look at you like you have 9 heads and go, "Son, I've done this for a long time. I think I know how to draw money. I think I know how to get people ready." You have CM Punk there, you have Drew McIntyre there, you have obviously Cody Rhodes and these guys. Like you're not going to be able to walk in, Brock Lesnar, all these, The Rock, Roman Reigns, right? So when you're Will Ospreay, and I hope he gets there before it's too late, not because I want him to jump and run away from AEW, but I think a regulated Will Ospreay would be really something special. He's a good
I
looking
think
guy.
he'd be really. I think he'd be really, really good.
Good looking guy. His promos aren't bad. They'll get better. He has a lot of passion, and we just have to kind of pull some of that Japanese stuff. Now, I love Japanese wrestling. I grew up watching Jumbo Tsuruta, Misawa, all those guys. So Liger, the whole thing. I cried when I met Liger. Got my picture taken with him. Liger's the friggin' man.
I
My
love
first Japanese
Lager.
wrestler I ever watched was Liger, and I got to take a picture with him. It was awesome. So and wrestle on shows with him, and got to see him without a mask. He looks like a jacked Mr. Miyagi. It's awesome. But I got to so Japanese wrestling is special to me, especially that era. But some of the Japanese stuff doesn't translate, and you just have to go. The Japanese stuff doesn't translate, and put it to bed. And then some of the indie stuff. Well, if you're drunk in a bar watching something with 200 people, they're gonna like everything. It's skewed. I say the two least jaded crowds in wrestling are little kids and college students in bars. Because
I'll agree with that one.
right.
Yeah.
So but it's also kind of like can give you and by the way, let's wrestle in front of those every day. Happy to do it. But it can give you kind of a skewed idea of what's over and what's not. So, you know, and 200 people in a bar, it might not be the best sampling for 60,000 people at WrestleMania or 10,000 people on Raw or SmackDown. So,
I completely agree.
right. So I think that sometimes people watch a guy like Will Ospreay and say, man, and by the way, he's super talented guy, obviously. And I think he could draw money, but I just think that he needs to go another level. And I don't mean another level physically as much as I need another level. He needs to wrestle people who have been there and done that. So,
I'm,
yeah, go ahead.
I'm right there with you, and I've said it about kind of his promo style. I like his promos. I want to love his promos though, and I think there's times where I guess the term would be he goes around his elbow to get to his wrist.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I think he could get the same reaction on a better reaction off of cutting it from 10 minutes to 5 minutes sort of thing, or
And that's the
5
same
minutes to
thing with
2
the
minutes.
wrestling. Again, what is the old saying that love their smell their farts or whatever it is, but there's a lot of fart smelling out there. Like, oh, this is so great. We'll keep doing, oh, if they love it at 5 minutes, they'll really love it at 10 minutes. Well, not really. I mean,
No, not
sometimes,
always.
no. And I mean, we hear the stories about Bruce Springsteen playing for 3 hours or whatever, and it's fun and it's great. But Bruce could have played for 2:15 and we'd be out of there and it'd be fine. I don't think people would be screaming and setting the chairs on fire and asking for the money back. So it's great that he gives him a little bit more, but he's also like whatever 75, 80 years old, and he wants to live every moment, and he wants to give the people what they pay for, and that's great. But or Dave Chappelle doing 6 hours or whatever. Like Dave Chappelle doing an hour on Netflix is great. Dave Chappelle doing 6 hours is a lot of self-aggrandizing. So
And probably filler.
yeah, probably a lot of crowd work and nonsense and all that. So we don't need to do that. We don't need to hold the people hostage. I'd love to see them do a nice tight 3-hour pay-per-view and see if they could do it. Leave some people off the show. Just say, hey, I'm sorry.
I would absolutely love that. That's really what I want. Like if you go like 3:15 for me, I think I'm happy with you. Like 3 hours 15 minutes, you get curtain to curtain, everything is done. I can live with that world.
The WWF pay-per-views were always timed at 2:47, so they had plenty of time for Hogan Must Pose, and then they had a 3-hour window.
Yeah,
and they hit it every time. They never didn't hit it. Why? Because they'll just, like I said, Coco Beware and Butch Reed will just wrestle for 3 minutes instead of 6 to 7 minutes. It's fine. You get paid the same 50 grand or whatever it is. Like, who cares?
exactly.
Like,
And I think that's a little bit with the
but
difference in
those
the
are
way
territory
television.
guys.
Yeah,
Those are territory. You know?
and it's the difference with the way television is now. Like nowadays, pay-per-views are through streaming networks, or even if they are through the cable
They're
network,
a lot
they
more
don't.
open.
Yeah, they don't give you the time limit
Right.
because that's the only thing showing on that channel. So when you
Right.
pay for it, it's the only thing. Where old pay-per-view, remember, you used to have to, you had to hit the time, and if you went X amount of time over that time, they cut you off. So yeah,
They
you
either cut you off or they charged you an
or they
extra,
yeah they
whatever it was,
yeah I think
100
they
grand
find
or whatever.
yeah
Yeah.
they would find the company, right? Yeah. So Bob, I don't want to take up too much more of your time because I know you got other stuff obviously
I know.
going on.
I feel like we've only scratched this. We'll have to do a part two because I feel like we
We're
didn't
gonna
talk
have to
about
do
it.
another interview soon, man. Like I want you back on the show. I kind of want to bring you on the show for when we start reviewing some of the not the events, but we've been doing some topics now that I would love your opinion on. Going into WrestleMania, my other thing was I don't want to review wrestling right now. I want to talk about fun stuff in wrestling. So like we've done wrestlers that have never done the won the WWF World Title. We've done guys that should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. We've done best Intercontinental Champions. Honestly, the one that I kind of want to get you and like guys like Barrett Brown on is favorite title belt design. I think that's one
Oh,
where we just bring
Winged,
like
Winged Eagle and the Savage Steamboat Honky Tonk Man Intercontinental. That's a
Intercontinental
good too.
Champion
Yep.
where it still had like the red around the WWF and stuff like that. I love
Yep.
that belt. The other one that I bring up that's kind of underrated is the old school AWA World Heavyweight Championship. I used to love that belt. I
The
still
one that
do love
Stan
that belt.
Hansen ran over with his car.
Yes, that one.
Yes. That's a good
So
one. That's a real good one. Yeah. Oh, and
before we
the Harley race, the NWA belt before the big
the
gold
globe
belt.
the globe
Yeah, that's a good one.
my buddy brings that one up all the time too. He's kind of a belt collector, so he
Gotcha.
loves stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I got two questions left for you that I want to hit. What advice would you give to anyone trying to make it in the business today, especially if they're just starting out?
Don't think of it as, and this is going to sound, let's steal from JFK, um, paraphrasing, but don't worry about what people can do for you or worry about what you can do for them. It's a service business. Realize that
Oh,
wrestling is completely the same as restaurant, as landscaping, as IT service. For years, we were told wrestling was a different business. We were sold a lie. I've really worked very hard the last 10 years to get that out of there, and it's been pretty successful. Wrestling is a service business. Go help somebody. Go, if you have no, Alex Hormozy says it all the time, you can either be busy or broke. So, and
I like that.
if you're broke, go get busy, right? Alex Hormozy's, first of all, he's a business guy who's worth $100 million, and he's jacked and looks way more. He looks kind of like you with the beard and everything, but he's jacked.
But jacked.
He's jacked. He looks like a wrestler, and he's not. But his breakdown of the Super Bowl commercials will have your eyes spinning in the back of your head. He's a brilliant guy and can teach a lot of lessons. But the idea is that if you have nothing going on, you have nothing to lose. So go do stuff. So go help out at shows. That doesn't mean you're the ring guy for the rest of your life, but go help out at shows, ask questions, figure out what kind of wrestling they need. Get your friends booked. Go do that too. Go with people to shows. Get in the habit of going to stuff on the weekends because that's going to be your job for a long time. And not everybody wants to make it as a national person. And the schedule is actually more favorable than ever. But most of your work is going to be on the weekend, so get used to that and get used to. Also, I would have a little side hustle, or I'd start putting money away for traveling, for gear, for stuff like that, and then
Taxes,
study.
taxes at that point.
Taxes, of course. Yep.
If you are running professional long enough and this is your main job, you're a 1099 at that point, my
Yes,
friend.
exactly. And then, but as far as just starting out, travel, get some reps in, get comfortable with traveling, get lost, have a problem with the hotel, have a problem with your flight where your flight gets delayed, go through the shit when it's small, so you don't fall to pieces when you later on. If you can't figure out how to book a flight for yourself when you're a star, then figure it out now when you're not a star, where the stakes are a lot smaller. And then ask questions and implement stuff even when it might not feel right. Implement stuff and then find the lane. There's so many people that are trying to find a magic button to push, and I'm guilty of this as well. We try 50 new things when the first old thing or the fifth old thing might work, if we stay with it long enough. So just kind of stay with it, learn, implement, take the stuff that doesn't work at all, throw it out and never use it again, or give it to someone else, metaphorically, and then use all the stuff that does work. And then that'll shape you into something. Don't worry about a gimmick your first year or two even. Wrestle as yourself. I mean, if you want to have a cool name, wrestle as that, but don't invest in some big costume that you can't hold up yet because you don't have any confidence. And reps build confidence. Proficiency builds more confidence in character than any hack or any advice I could give. So that's the first question. What's the second question?
All right. I'm going to start closing off interviews with this question all the time. You're actually the first one I'm breaking it out on. What's one lesson wrestling has taught you that applies to life outside the ring, outside the business?
That you can make the impossible possible if you just take small steps and frame it the right way and make it happen. I say it all the time. Every wrestling show you go to started with an empty building and an idea, and now it's something. Every wrestling promotion you started, every show you've seen on TV, everything. Your marriage, your kids, something from nothing. Realize this is all a miracle. Could go away tomorrow. And realize that it'll mean as much to you as you put into it, and embrace the good. Try to minimize the bad, learn from the bad. But yeah, and then realize that you're tougher than you think you are, and realize that you're more resilient than you think you are. So resiliency is a big thing, especially these days when a lot of people kind of, I'm not some old crazy right-wing guy, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of people kind of complain about stuff instead of kind of just trying to fix it. Not woke and all that bullshit. That's all nonsense. That's all crap trying to divide us. But take responsibility. Wrestling is very independent. Take responsibility, do good things, try things, and enjoy it all because it's awesome.
I like it. Bob, the last thing I'm going to give you is if you got any stuff you want to talk about, like I said, again, reiterating any promotional stuff you got going on, I want to give you this chance. You were nice enough to come on the show. I appreciate having you, man. This has been a great conversation.
Sure. No, the pleasure's been mine. At pretty much a Facebook guy, at Brutal Bob Evans on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Really haven't gotten the YouTube thing going, but that's real Brutal Bob Evans compared to all the fake ones out there running around.
All that stuff will be down below, folks.
Great. And then, but yeah, Facebook. And then Kevin Kelly and I have a show that we do, Bob and Kevin Almost Live, Friday afternoons. And it's really kind of an open-ended conversation. We're going to start doing topics a little bit more, but usually it's a little bit of Kevin's experience, my experience, talking about Kevin's new wrestling company, and then lessons we've learned along the way. So there's usually quite a bit of wisdom in there too. And if you want to book us for seminars, Kevin, me, or us together, contact me and we'll set something up. Schedule is very busy, but there's always room for more, as they say.
Busy's good, man. All right, Bob, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on, man. This has been awesome. Like I said, we got to do a part 2 with this because part 1, we didn't get enough talking, and we need to maybe do a series of these with just me and you at this point.
And we can all agree that Tim Hughes is the man.
Tim Hughes is the man.
Yes.
With that said, Legion, check out Bob, check out Tim Hughes, check out Kevin Kelly, and as always, guys, remember, tuck your chin when you bump.